no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
It's the size of Texas, Mr. President.
Get off my plane.
I see dead people. We're in the middle of a war. It's time to pick a side.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to Duel of the Greats, Season 3, Episode 2, folks. Last week, if you'll remember, we did Armageddon versus Deep Impact, where both were disaster movies, where the disaster came from above, raining down from the heavens. And this week, we follow up with two disaster movies, but this time, the disaster comes from below, bubbling up to the surface in the forms of the movies Volcano and Dante's Peak. Both movies came out in the brisk, very famous year of 1997. I don't know why it's a famous year. I don't know if you guys do this. I do this. The only way I sort of like know where things were placed in my life is by certain milestone events, and usually those milestone events, and that sounds like heavier than it has to be. It's not always like a marriage or something like that. Obviously, I know what year I was married, but
my great grandfather died the year the English Patient came out.
Right, but for me, it's usually some sort of like sports event. Right, so the year of 1997 was the second year that the Chiefs went 13-3 and then lost in the playoffs to the Denver Broncos, who ended up going to the Super Bowl, which was an absolutely horrible transpiring of events. But anyway, also in that year, we got Volcano and Dante's Peak.
Far more importantly, far more germane to the conversation.
This is not a sports podcast, I promise. But that just when I'm trying to think about when I was watching these movies and I was trying to think about, okay, what's the
put
context?
Yourself in the same headspace.
Yeah, well, like what's the context at the time?
And I'm watching Volcano.
The entire world is concerned with possible volcano erupting and whether or not the Chiefs will beat the Broncos in the playoffs. These are the two things that are happening here. But I did kind of have to try and put there's one thing in particular that I don't want to discuss yet. We'll wait till we discuss further the movies. But there's one thing in particular where I was trying to be like, was this how it was in 97? But anyway, so yeah.
So just to interrupt here, the order of events was 97 was, the start of 97 was volcanic eruptions destroying everybody. And then we had the Chiefs losing to the Broncos. And then in 98, we had Armageddon with asteroids. So it was just all around a shitty 24 months.
It was a tough time. Tough time for emergency management folks.
Technically, the Chiefs' loss happened in 98. It was the 97 season. So that actually, in the same calendar year as Armageddon. But it's also funny that our first four movies are all in the same 18 months, really.
Yeah.
So, but
I think things were so great in the 90s that we just had to imagine the world falling apart.
It's true. We had to invent
what it was.
Chaos.
Well, I was thinking about that, and I was remembering, like, why this stuff, because we talked about one of the things we wanted to really sort of look into is why these movies.
Yeah. How did this happen? Right?
And I think that we talked about it with Deep Impact and Armageddon, but
we had an answer there, at least a plausible answer on that. Yeah.
Right. And with these movies as well, it's like this was sort of this era in the 90s because the 80s was like a hugely prosperous era for America. And then it ended, 1987. So like the late 80s, there was the market crash and things got kind of bad there. And then they had to get built back up again. But I think with the 90s, it was the first sort of decade that America and the world really sort of grappled with a lot of the, what are we doing to the world and what are the possible consequences here? And what are, like, it felt like there was more of a grasp of that, us as humans right now in this moment, we aren't like, we're just a small piece of this massive thing going on around us. And that includes
Certainly took a
asteroids
bigger
coming
role,
from
yeah.
the sky and volcanoes erupting. Because I remember in this time, I remember reading about it in grade school, where like we watched a video on asteroids and how there were all. This is before those movies came out, but it had just become a big thing where because there was some asteroid in the 90s that came closer to Earth. It's still like 150 million miles or whatever, but still came closer to Earth than anything else previously had come that they'd registered and things like that. And then, volcanoes. People were like, "Oh, what would happen if the biggest volcano actually erupted?" It's like, well, it would probably destroy almost, because that was one of the theories as well on what killed the dinosaurs, that it was a massive volcanic eruption. Those were the sort of, actually, I think those might have been the two main competing theories at the time, was asteroid and volcano. So I think that's kind of interesting, that thinking back, getting myself in that headspace, 13-3 Chiefs, possible impending destruction of all human life. Those were sort of the big things in my world at the time.
The Cold War had ended too. So instead of having this boogeyman and the specter of nuclear war hanging over our heads,
That's a good point.
which ironically, still was there, but that had gone from red hot to almost off the table. A low simmer. So we had to have something else to fill our minds. So we looked to the heavens.
That's true.
And to the depths.
And if there's anything that humans love, it's filling our minds with dread.
We're so good at it as a species.
Really are.
We're good at it.
Fantastic.
We're the best at it. Of the animal kingdom, we've got to be the
I mean,
best at it.
Do you have any proof
dogs
otherwise?
Dogs just run around like there's not. Dogs aren't worried about
care.
asteroids, comets, volcanic eruptions.
I've never heard one talk about it. All right.
I was like, Daisy, how do you feel about the impending? Daisy's my dog, for those that don't know. Daisy, how do you feel about the possibility of Mount St. Helens or one of them erupting? She just stared at me and then licked herself. So
now, that's interesting. Despite her excellent commentary on Mount St. Helens, I do wonder, why didn't these movies happen in the 80s? Mount St. Helens blew up in 1980.
Right.
I mean, why did they not? Right. I mean, maybe it really did take that long for it to percolate through the system,
and maybe it was something that it was like, hashtag too soon, right? They were like, people, the American public, that was a thing that really shook a lot of people. They don't want to see that. I think about the movie Munich, right, which we talked about in season 1 in one of the episodes. My dad was hesitant to see that movie because of, he remembered watching the 72 Olympics when they were taken, and that was not a pleasant memory for him. There's also another movie coming out that just recently came out September 5th that I really want to see. That's about the same thing.
Yeah.
But
that's fair. There's some of the, like World Trade Center and Flight 9. I won't watch those movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't watched them. They've been out for, over a decade. Same deal. So, yeah, it's interesting how we sort of had some people, I think, sort of like to be confronted with that when they deal with it, and some people don't. It's just kind of, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. It's just how people are. But yeah. So anyway,
let's do it.
Volcano, Dante's Peak. We're gonna get into it. So Nate has Dante's Peak. You will be representing them in today's proceedings. Stephen, you will be representing Volcano,
starring the titular Volcano.
That's right. Both titular, in fact.
That's true.
Both breaking one of Roger Ebert's cardinal movie sins of don't say the name of the movie in the movie. But there are plenty of exceptions to that where there's a good movie. So, but anyway, so as far as who's going first, I would flip a coin. I don't have a coin near me. Brandon, do you have the wheel of decision making?
I do have the wheel of decision making.
Steve, I don't want to press anything on my computer for fear that it will
Doesn't melt
self
down.
None of us want you to do
So,
that.
Brandon is gonna roll the wheel of decision-making power.
I wasn't prepared for this. Hold on a second.
Some producer you are not even prepared.
Well, I also wasn't prepared for your computer to crash 3 times just to get started.
This is true. I guess I could Google coin flip on my phone.
Heads, tails.
We have a lot of combined experience and knowledge sitting on this call right now, and the fact that we can't pull this off.
All right.
It's pretty
all right. So
I guess
Nate,
my question is
heads or tails?
Heads.
Nate calls heads, and I have flipped. Oh, we got tails there.
Which is funny,
All right.
because I also got tails.
Ooh, so it's destined.
The universe.
Destined for Steve. So, Volcano, 1997. Steve, take it away. State your case.
All right. And we're recording this both via audio and video. If anyone is listening to this as a podcast, I encourage you to go home and Google one of the posters for the 1997 mega blockbuster Volcano. I'm sharing the link.
Steve thought this was Pelican Brief, in fact. He was like, he watched
That's
it.
a callback. That's a callback. But I've shared this in the chat. I don't know if anyone else, it looks like Brandon has seen this. The goddamn poster for this movie, it says, with a giant image of the volcano erupting out of the middle of LA, it says, "The coast is toast." So that's what you got to know going into this movie. This
one says it's hotter than hell.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Sorry,
I
continue.
prefer the coast is toast.
Oh, yep. So they had a template, is what they added. They just changed it. That's the same poster.
This movie, volcanoes are big and bombastic. They're earth shattering. They ruin lives. They are something that requires a big and bombastic movie. And that's what Volcano is. Yes, it looks like it's a TV movie. But you know what? That's okay. And the reason that's okay, this was directed by the guy that directed the movie Threads. We were talking about nuclear war. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie.
Man.
It was a BBC TV production.
I'm still trying to work my way up to watching that movie.
You got to watch it, especially after this.
I'm almost there.
So this guy knows what he's doing. And while Threads is a classic and a horrific movie that will ruin your week, I still encourage you to go see it. This movie is a little bit more fun. You got people melting to death. You got, lava bombs blowing shit up. You have Tommy Lee Jones very optimistically thinking that a fire truck turned over on its side is going to be a dam against an entire river of lava. Which, while he was doing that, I'm like, I appreciate your effort, Tommy, but I really don't think this plan's going to work. But you know what? Through sheer grit and determination, he fucking beats that volcano. He beats that goddamn volcano. Not only once, but twice. He gets outsmarted by the volcano. and then he winds up sprinting 500 yards just to tackle his kid and another random kid like 3 feet out of the way. And that somehow saved him. I saw somebody else mention that when I was doing research for this. And they're like, I kind of think that's this is a kid problem. These children have made poor decisions. The fact that they can't move like 3 feet to the left or right to, get out of the way of this goddamn skyscraper that's falling. But anyway, all right, partially I think I'm a sucker for these kind of movies. One of my favorite movies of all time, was a miniseries, is Lonesome Dove. We've talked about this. And in it, Tommy Lee Jones plays Captain Woodrow Call. Now, that's not going to mean anything to you guys because you've never watched it, but the two main characters of the book and the movie are Woodrow Call and Augustus McCrae. They're two old rangers that work together, and they've fought the Indians for all these years. They're kind of like polar opposites, right? Augustus McCrae he's the Epicurean. He lives for the moment. Life is about pleasure. None of this really means anything because we're on a giant rock hurtling through space. We're here for a blink of an eye. And Call is the complete opposite. Work and duty, that's all there is. Everybody that's not working is lazy. And it's not so much that he feels these like deep in his bones as a belief. It's just that's how it is in his mind. He's like, but he's also hyper competent. And this is revealing a little bit about myself. one of my biggest fears is not knowing either how to do something or how to, being incompetent to the point that I guess lose control of a situation. I don't know. Like when you're thinking about the blizzard that we're still dealing with the effects of, I gotta be prepared. I gotta know, what's the plan? Do we have enough supplies? All this stuff. That's like one of my main things. And one of my biggest fears would be being caught unawares. Tommy Lee Jones in Lonesome Dove, well, not a character that I'd want to really model my entire life on. He's the super hyper competent person. There's even an archetype. Robert Heinlein wrote a lot of stories with the competent man archetype, right? It's this kind of guy that knows what to do in all situations. He's experienced. He knows what's happening. He may not be the best emotionally, might not be the best father, might not be the best husband, but he's prepared and he's going to get the job done. So I'm already set up to love Tommy Lee Jones in a role like this. Tommy Lee Jones excels in roles like this. And we have the most competent goddamn Office of Emergency Management guy, the most hands-on Office of Emergency Management supervisor in the history of fucking FEMA or whatever you want. This guy is getting his hands in there. He's getting them dirty. He's ignoring his daughter. It's fine. We don't have to worry about her, although she still shows up. It does anyway. My point is, this movie's not very good, but Tommy Lee Jones, I would follow that man through hell.
Objection. You're defeating your own case.
I'm still telling you why you should pick this movie.
Am I allowed to just get up here and be like the defense ref? Like...
The point is, you should still pick this movie because Tommy Lee Jones' performance is enough to make you gird up your loins, pick up a shovel or whatever, and charge into a goddamn volcano. You just want to follow the man. There's a line that he says towards the end when they're planning their I guess it's their second ditch effort to stop this lava flow. And he says, "You don't like my plan? Fine. Give me another plan, but don't tell me we're backing out." How can you not follow a guy like that? He's going to go down swinging against this volcano, even if that would wind up getting, turning him into melty goo. But, he sticks it out and they win. They defeat the volcano. And I mean, what more can we ask for than that? So there's also I thought there were a lot of fun lines in this movie. I'm a scientist. Certainty is a big word. Some of them were a little bit more on the nose, like at the very end with the little kid. Look at their faces. They all look the same because they're all covered in ash. I'm like, this is a visual medium. You could have just shown us that all their faces are the same. You don't have to call that out. Are there problems with it? Sure. Does the racist cop get redeemed simply by doing his job and saying, "Oh, there's massive structure fires in that neighborhood. You firefighters should probably go deal with that." And we're supposed to be like, "Hey, good for him." Yeah, that's true. Is Anne Heche probably woefully underutilized in this? Yeah. Is Anne Heche woefully underage for Tommy Lee Jones? Oh my God, yes. He's almost twice or three times her age. So, that's my general summation. Tommy Lee Jones and but where else are you gonna see the La Brea tar pits blow up? Lava bombs rain on people. Fire trucks get blown up. You see the dude that played what's his name in Zodiac, the main suspect.
John Carroll.
You see him. Yeah,
John Carroll Lynch. Yes.
Carroll Lynch, great character actor. I will agree with you on calling him out. Yeah.
Yes,
he fucking melts
in the Drew Carey show.
What is it? I don't remember that. You're throwing me off back. The fucker melts his feet from his feet to his head.
Like the Wicked Witch.
Himself. Yes. So anyway, and all that, the trump card is this movie, which I think is going to maybe establish a rule for this series. This movie has Richard Schiff. That's 2 in a row, baby. And if a movie has Richard Schiff in it, it has to win.
We know Nate is especially touched by Richard Schiff.
Big. In fact, we were watching the movie, and my wife was like, "Hey, it's Toby Ziegler."
Who's that guy?
Like, that's just who it is. It's Toby Ziegler.
Anyway,
all right, Steve, I don't want to step on your toes. Are you done with your nonsense?
I mean, Tommy Lee Jones has not told me whether I can feel safe to move on or not. But
I'll be your Tommy Lee Jones tonight.
all right.
Steve. So if your points have been made, then you can rest. And Nate, you have the floor.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got through that. I think if I would have started, this would be a shorter episode. Thank you, Steve, for teeing up several of my points for me.
I'm very, very happy that I got to go first.
Okay. I appreciate that you teed up several of my points. You actually brought up the poster and the tagline on the poster, the coast is toast. I'm going to read a section of the review for the movie Volcano, not my movie Dante's Peak, for the movie Volcano from Roger Ebert. He says this. The ad says the coast is toast, but maybe they should say the volcano is Drano. This is a surprisingly cheesy disaster epic. It's said that Volcano cost a lot more than Dante's Peak, a competing volcano movie released 2 months ago, but it doesn't look it. Dante's Peak had better special effects, a more entertaining story, and a real mountain. Okay? So that's Roger Ebert, who we have used, as a source for a lot of things, and I happen to agree with him. One of the first points I'm going to bring up is that in these movies about competing volcanoes, one of them has a fucking volcano, and that is Dante's Peak. Volcano, the movie
objection.
we need to, okay. One of them, you literally describe volcanoes as big, bombastic things. You don't even see a volcano in Volcano. It's a thing that's emerging from underneath. You see lava from a volcano.
Did you not stay to the end? There's a goddamn volcano in the middle of LA now. The Randy Newman music plays, and you get a shot of it.
A little tiny 20-foot volcano. Dante's Peak has a massive volcano. Clearly based on something we've already discussed in this, Mount St. Helens. Okay, they actually shot parts of it on Mount St. Helens. It's the actual volcano when you see it is beautiful CGI. Dante's Peak has much better visual effects. They do a great incorporation of incorporating CGI with a bunch of practical effects. When the town starts to fall apart and all the signs are falling over and the buildings are blowing out, all of that is practical effects. A lot of them they used really, really effective miniatures. It's a much, much more compelling thing. There are 2 sequences in Dante's Peak that are as good as any sequences that we've seen of any movie that we've watched in this podcast, okay? The scene with the actual explosion of the volcano, where they are running from it in their car and you're seeing the blast come at them, that is as scary and as effective as anything that we have watched in this podcast, far scarier than anything in the movie Volcano. And then, I love the quiet moments. The scene where they kind of first escape the volcano, they're saving the grandma from the house, and they get on this boat. And there's this lonely, terrifying boat ride where they are going across this lake. And as they realize that they're going across the lake, that the volcanic eruption underneath them has turned the water into like acid and it's boiling. And Pierce Brosnan is trying to keep the kids calm. He starts singing, row, row, row your boat, and he's trying to get everybody to sing along with him. And it's great cinematography because it shows this long establishing shot of them just drifting so lonely across this lake, and it doesn't give the viewer any perspective as to like how far they have to go. And so there's so much tension of like when are they going to get there, and eventually it does show you that they do get there and they get across the other side of the lake. That scene, the tension in that scene, without any type of visual effect, the tension in that scene based in the acting and the staging and where they put the camera is so much better than anything in the movie Volcano. Okay? Other problems with Volcano. I love a movie that fails the Bechdel test as fast as it possibly can. And this movie is practically sprinting to fail it. The instant that there are 2 female characters, they fail the Bechdel test. And who do they fail it for, Steve? Who do they fail it for? Classic Hollywood hunk, stud muffin, Tommy Lee Jones.
Anne Heche has a father figure issue. It's very clear.
Okay, all right. They totally burn it immediately for Tommy Lee Jones, who all the women were going crazy for in 1997, all right? Couldn't get enough of, I even wrote down their ages, Anne Heche, 28 years old, couldn't get enough of 51-year-old Tommy Lee Jones, literally old enough to be her father, okay? And then throughout the whole thing, it's like supposed to be this semi-romantic thing, and they have absolutely no chemistry. And then finally, I will add that at least Dante's Peak, centered in a nice small community, does not have the gall to say, you know what we should do? we should try to solve like racial tensions with our volcano. We should you know the movie Crash that's gonna come out 8 years from now? We should try to do that in LA, but with a volcano. So we should have this really awful police officer who won't just like basically do his job. And we should have him like, have this interaction with this black guy that he's like trying to arrest while Wilshire Boulevard is on fire. We should have that resolved by a volcano. We should have a little boy come out at the end and say, look, everybody looks the same. We can solve all of racial tension in Los Angeles if we'd only just had a volcano. At least Dante's Peak does not insult its audience in that way. It deals with real people going through real things. I have to think, I've never been in a volcanic eruption, but I have to think that Dante's Peak is treating the science in a much more honest way. And I have to think that volcanic eruption scene, I don't want to ever be in that position, but that seems about as accurate as it could possibly be, and not a bunch of lava spewing from tar pits in Los Angeles. I digress. I'm done. That's my opening statement.
Just because Volcano had the courage to tackle such large
The courage of its own convictions.
and all-encompassing
Nate took a drink at the wrong time.
as racial tension. Maybe it came up a little short.
Ahead of its time.
Ahead of its
Racial
time.
tension.
It also addresses
Or maybe way
class
back.
consciousness and the battle between the 1% and the 99%. There's this totally necessary and completely not shoehorned in plot about a nurse or a doctor and her developer husband, boyfriend, and he's opening the skyscraper that I guess that's the one that gets blown up at the end. Those two characters were completely unnecessary to the plot, but they had the courage to tackle it. God damn it. They had the courage to get down and dirty in the La Brea tar pits that are now superheated and do what needed to be done for the American people in 1997. Unlike your lily white, rich, little secluded village with no diversity, just complete.
That's
can't
true.
have-
Not that is. I want to
I'm not
hear a
gonna-
response to this. I don't. Was there
Okay,
a single
you can't-
minority in Dante's Peak?
Here's my response to it. Okay, I don't know. I wasn't sitting around counting racial minorities, but what I was paying, because that movie isn't going to sit around and insult those issues and insult the problem. You can't have it both ways, Steve. You can't say I love movies like this. They're just fun and big blockbusters, and that's the coast is toast, and that's fun. But I also need them to be serious, and I need them to have the courage to tackle these real life issues of class and race. You can't do that. Okay, and that's what one, you can't do it as an argument, and two, you can't do it as a movie, and that's what this movie is trying to do. This movie is trying to take these huge issues that are prevalent in the city of Los Angeles and say, let's tackle these in a classic disaster movie. Let's do that. And I think it's inappropriate, and yeah, there's not a lot of diversity in Dante's Peak. It's clearly like a little white neighborhood in what state are they? They're in Oregon, I think. I think they're in Oregon or Washington. Okay, it's clearly a small little community. In fact, dare I say, it's the what is it? The second best place to live in
Second
America.
best place
under
to live in the
20,000
country.
people.
Population under 20,000.
They really hammer that shit home. I also like in my movie how Dante's Peak is basically the shark in Jaws. Like, there's these business people that don't want to leave the town because of like we can't have a
That's the
volcano in
same
here.
thing that came to my head when I was like, "This
Yeah.
is."
Yeah, so kind of the same dynamic there, but I just appreciate again that hey, if that's what it's going to go for, it's going to deal with a small town vibe, and that's true to what the story is that it's telling, and it's going to treat this volcanic eruption in a very real way, and it's going to wreak havoc on this town in a very real way, and I think honestly, again, in a scarier way, because yeah, there's a lot of supposed horrific images in Volcano. They don't feel earned. Okay, they're clearly just setups for like action sequences that we see.
Well, yeah.
Whereas
Did you see that firefighter go flying through the air when his firefighter truck rolled over?
I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like
That was
I mean,
pretty
that's what I'm
fucking
saying.
cool.
There are horrific images in it, but again, I just feel like they're setups for the images that we see that are supposed to be horrific are setups for, isn't that a great little set piece where the firefighter went flying out of a fire truck? Whereas in Dante's Peak, stuff that you see, it feels so real. Like when they are trying to get across, when they're in the car and they're trying to drive across the river. And he's like, it's okay, we can do it because, this engine has like a little snorkel. It's going to be able to get across just barely. And then there's the panic of the people trying to get out of town, and all the cars start to go off the bridge and try and go into the water, and people start getting stuck in the water. Like that feels real to me. That feel like if there's a small town that's trying to evacuate and there's a volcano erupting behind them, it's scary. It deals
feels
with the
like a real
actual
bummer.
I'm not saying it's not a bummer.
You've got your expert leading people like the Pied Piper straight into the water. My expert is defending the metropolis, the largest metropolis in the entire western half of the country. Your guy is sitting here being like...
That was actually my question, because
your guy caused deaths.
I think those people would not have gone into the river unless they saw this other car going. How do you respond to that?
First of all, if my guy, Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, was trying to do anything, from the very beginning, he's the one trying to save lives. He's the one, at the beginning of the movie, that tries to go to the... He says, call a city council meeting right now. You need to put this community on alert. You need to have an evacuation order ready to go. Then, when it all starts, they're in the gym. The earthquake starts. He's the one going, remain calm. Do not rush to the doors. Remain calm. There is no one in that movie that's trying to save more lives, okay? The bad guy is his boss. It's like, look, we can't do this. This is going to hurt the community. The stupid business guy...
Objection. That is, you're painting the boss an entirely unfair light. He says, we need evidence. We shouldn't cause a panic. We need evidence. I think they actually behave rather reasonably. He does admit he was wrong. But that's an outcome determinative.
He does admit that he was wrong, and he does die. He
with a Wilhelm scream, by the way, which was interesting.
Yes, he does die in a big flow of
and zero reaction from his entire team.
Yeah, as they all one guy kind of reacts.
They were they're flustered before, and they remain just perfectly flustered afterwards. Not.
So
I think it's safe to say both these movies, people die, coworkers die. Anne Heche's coworker dies. She watches her die, and it's like that's pretty much written off almost immediately. Both movies are maybe a little bit guilty of that.
So Steve, when you hear Nate bring up a point that Roger Ebert brought up in his review of how Volcano costs more than Dante's Peak, but the special effects clearly didn't look that way, how do you respond to that point?
Well, as Nate so eloquently stated, Dante's Peak is a film about a very small area, very small, community. They're not trying to tackle all of Los Angeles. And, it's going to cost more money to do a larger area. That's just facts. I mean, you got to have more computer processing power to render an entire metropolitan area versus one stinking little mountain. So I think they saved all their money for the lava and the fire trucks. And, that looked okay. That's how I respond.
They did look like real fire trucks for what that's worth.
They also had the awesome, the concrete Jersey barriers. Those couldn't have been cheap.
What do you call them? K stops or something like that?
That's called. I can't remember. And he built them too high. Did you catch that? I mean, that's a plan. That's going to work. There's no gaps or anything in them. In that barrier. There was a lot of money and care spent in the lava. And the lava looks really good. Let's talk about the lava some more. Keith David's in it. That's right. You also have Don Cheadle.
How do you respond to that?
You got Don Cheadle as a guy in the chair too.
We do have. Let
me be clear. Let me be clear. Your argument has come down to you're just naming actors. You're just saying this person was in it and this person was in it.
It can't be bad if this person's in it.
I also described his role, guy in the chair.
But he does bring up a point, Steve. Nate, we'll get your response to the idea that something like a volcano erupting is a massive event that's going to have far-reaching implications. That Dante's Peak only deals with the 7,500 roughly people in Dante's Peak, whereas you see more of a further reach in Volcano. How do you feel about that point?
Well, obviously, Volcano is just based in a larger city. I'm not going to fault Dante's Peak for just being based in a small community and
Your
not.
Honor, he said
It's
it
going to
himself.
keep. You're gonna. Well, yeah, because it's supposed to be isolating. You're gonna keep. That's the power of the filmmaking. You're gonna keep it in that community. You're not
You
gonna
want
like
to use
go out
filmmaking
to,
to
like,
isolate American communities. That's what you're trying to do here.
That's-
I'm trying to solve racial
Good
injustice.
sense
Bring
of
everyone
good neighbors,
together.
okay. All right. I think the movie Dante's Peak, and again, I think it's scarier because it's more isolating. Obviously, Los Angeles is a much bigger city, and they are going to have to cover a lot more ground. So it makes sense. I'm giving this to Volcano. It makes sense that some of the plot would have to be subway workers and geological experts, and then the emergency, personnel and systems that oversee a massive city like that. Of course. Okay, Dante's Peak isn't going to have any of that because it's not based in that kind of community. We're not going to fault movies for their setting and where they're putting movies. And so I think, I think my response to that is just that Dante's Peak takes place in a small community. It's not going to deal with larger ramifications of a volcanic eruption because it doesn't need to do that. It's an isolating movie where you're in this one small community.
So here's a question for both of you. Which movie did Ash better? Which movie has the better Ash, if you will?
I will say this, and not to defend both movies, I looked them up. Both movies use burnt newspaper for Ash. Both use the exact same effect for Ash.
Interesting.
I think that I don't know if it does it better. I'll even say that Volcano has more Ash because I think the plot is a little bit more dependent on there's Ash going up into the sky for a longer period of time. I feel like the Ash is a little more plentiful in Volcano. I think that
Bigger
Dante's
Ash.
Peak more. I think Dante's Peak more effectively utilizes the Ash to insinuate that trouble is abroad instead of just having it dumped on the characters all the time.
Interesting. Steve, another question.
Bombast. Bigger is baby. Bigger is better, baby. Give me more Ash.
Steve's an Ash man.
Back that Ash up.
A lot of Ash puns.
One could say Volcano is nothing but ash.
One could say that. So, Steve, a question that I have for you. In Volcano, I noticed, especially in the scenes where the magma was rolling towards people, it was almost as if they gave it monster sounds. Did you notice this? Like the sounds that were happening were not sounds that I believe would come from magma.
So, first of all, it's lava once it reaches the Earth's surface. It's no longer magma.
Fair enough.
Which Volcano would have taught you because it treats the science very appropriately with just enough to get you interested, but not enough to bog you down with details. But anyway, I didn't notice the sounds so much with the exception of when it's in the tunnels underneath. I even wrote down in my notes, I'm like, this is like a living thing. It treats it almost like you said, like a monster. I thought that was a very interesting thing as well. It's basically chasing them through the city. But yeah, I didn't pick it up with the sounds, but I see where you're coming from. They treat it like that. Which is part of the genius of this film, really.
All right. So I've exhausted all my questions here. Do we have any further statements, any closing arguments here?
Go first on the closings. Do it.
Yeah.
We flip-flop it?
No, we keep it
No, we
same.
don't.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Steve, you're up. Sorry.
All I gotta say is, I don't go to the movies to watch people that are bad at their jobs. And Pierce Brosnan's character, he doesn't really get to do much in terms of like saving people. He's kind of just a passenger along the way here. And the best example of this is at the end when he decides, let's drive through the lava. And, everyone watching at home is like, no, don't drive through the lava. Your wheels will melt. Your tires. And what happens? His tires melt. And like earlier, when he led those poor citizens to their death, He almost gets this family killed by doing this. But you know what saves him? He screams, "No, no." And they're fine. They get through it. He says, "Come on." And it works. So you know what? In this fantasy world that we've made up in Dante's Peak, where a man can almost single-handedly destroy the economy of a town, murder its citizens, and then try to kill a small family, all with his ineptitude. I just don't think we shouldn't reward this type of filmmaking. On the other hand, Volcano has Tommy Lee Jones, who knows what to do at every turn. And when he finally, at the end, he's like, "I don't know what to do." You feel it. It hurts you. It breaks your soul, because you know this man has given it everything he has. He saved lives, many lives over the course of this film. And you know what? They fixed racism too.
Fixed it.
All gone.
I don't know how you can compete with that, Nate, but give it a shot.
I'll do my best. So again, I think that I'll just kind of go back to, I think really my biggest, most important point here. Steve said, what do we want? When we think of volcanoes, we think of these giant structures, these big bombastic things that rise out of the earth triumphantly. One of these movies has a volcano. The other one doesn't have a volcano. The other one has lava coming out of tar pits. Okay? If I want to go in and I want to watch a movie about a volcano, I want the promise of the premise to be achieved, I want to go in and I want to see a volcano. Dante's Peak is a volcano. There are people on the volcano. There are people researching the volcano. There's more. I don't know how Steve can make his arguments about scientific research and the accuracy of it. There is more scenes of scientific research going on in Dante's Peak in any 2 to 3 minute period of the movie than there is for the whole movie. Volcano. Okay? Dante's Peak has a volcano. And when that thing erupts, that feels real. It is scary, it is nightmarish, and it feels like what it might feel like in an actual volcanic eruption. In Volcano, the movie doesn't feel like that. It feels like you have to make up something. So let's just start to have lava flow through Los Angeles. It shouldn't even be called Volcano. It should be called Lava. That's what the movie should be called. It should be called Lava. Okay? Because you look around and you just don't see this thing that you want to see in a volcano movie. You don't see Volcano. And I remember being very disappointed by that as a young man watching the movie on TV, that it didn't actually have a volcano. And years later, I still find myself disappointed by it. And so, again, I just think that Dante's Peak is real. It has real characters. It has the aforementioned moments of tension. The scene across the lake where they're taking the boat across the lake, the actual eruption scene where they're running from it in their car. These sequences are simply better. They're better pieces of filmmaking than anything in Volcano.
There it is. All right, I'll tell you, I was I was about as impartial as one could be, which is probably good for me being the judge this week. I had not seen these movies. I couldn't even recall the discourse around them over which one was better or worse. So I really didn't have any preconceived notions. I think if we're all honest, I think we can all agree that both these movies are, for the most part, forgettable. Which explains why 27 years later, 28 now, years later, I don't really remember there being much discourse around these movies, other than the fact that they came out so close together. Like, at least with Deep Impact and Armageddon, there was much more people talking about them. They felt more like events. So that's kind of an aside. But as I think about to make my ruling here, I realized with these two movies, I had two completely different experiences watching them. And I don't know that was intended. And I struggle sometimes because I think about, this is what I was talking about at the beginning, trying to put my mindset back in 1997 versus looking at these movies through the lens of 28 years, not only of my own life, but of just movie making changes, societal changes, etc. Many possibly spurred on by Volcano itself. Societal changes of solving. I mean, we don't have racism anymore because Volcano.
I'm saying.
It doesn't exist. The ash made everyone realize that we're all the same. But as I look at it, unlike some judges on this show that shall remain nameless, I do want to look at who made the better argument. And when I think about those and think about my experiences, I have to award the victory to Dante's Peak. That's actually, now that I've said that, I can actually say I was fighting against this because I personally had a far better time watching Volcano. But again, I don't know if that was intended. I laughed my ass off. I wrote I have an entire page worth of just quotes that I wrote down. Like, there's one point where there's a helicopter that's flying above the city, and the voiceover from like a news broadcast is like, it's what scientists are calling
a volcano.
I was like, yo, what? In 1997, did people not know what volcanoes were? And I was thinking really hard, and I was like, no, I knew in 1997 what a volcano was. I knew it. You can't gaslight me, movie. And then at one point, there's a little like flame ball comes down, and Anne Heche
It's a lava
yells,
bomb.
It's a lava bomb. I had to pause the movie. I was laughing so hard. And the scene that they cut away and they show this like dark sky, and the lava bomb comes out of nowhere and then comes down towards the camera. They showed that exact same thing 3 times. They used the same shot 3 times in that movie. And then the overly dramatic scene where Tommy Lee Jones has his daughter. I'm surprised, Nate, that this didn't touch you the way Richard Schiff's Deep Impact moment did. But when Tommy Lee Jones is carrying his daughter and jumps 2 feet off the hood of a car, and it like stops into slow motion.
Yeah, they use slow motion all the time in this movie.
And then
It was jarring too. It was like
It was
really strange. It almost had like a fading effect where you could like see his. It was crazy. And then we talked about it. John Carroll Lynch just melting from the feet up. He's in the thing and he jumps. And I'm just like, oh shit, he's gonna jump. And he jumps, and I'm like, oh, he didn't make it. He didn't make it. And he chucks the guy he's carrying, and then he just falls and slowly melts, and they all watch him. And I could not stop laughing. And I was like, this is supposed to be a very poignant, dramatic moment, and I am just laughing my ass off with that. Man.
Compared to the sacrifice scene in Dante's Peak, it's literally laughable. Like,
and
to
be
be
clear,
clear,
one time,
I'm so relieved that you picked Dante's Peak. Like, I had to argue. I had to give it my best shot. But Dante's Peak is an infinitely better movie.
well, and there was one scene where the last quote I had written down was Anne Heche is explaining what happens when the steam and the magma, the lava, and all that, and Tommy Lee Jones goes, "Do you mean erupt?" And like these are clearly, like, Nate, when you said, oh, these are clearly just invented set pieces put around a movie. It's like, that's pretty much what it was. And Dante's Peak, like, it was more well done as a movie, which is why I picked it as a winner. But I think it was more forgettable. But again, that I struggle with, if I would have seen them both in 97, would I have felt the same way? And I probably would have thought that Dante's Peak was just a little, probably like similar to Deep Impact Armageddon, But
It's interesting you say that.
Volcano
about
was
forgettable.
I thought it was just hilarious.
Because, I mean, I guess the proof is in the pudding. Like, nobody really talks about it anymore. But going back and watching it again, now that I don't have to argue on behalf of the shitty movie that was Volcano. What I said about Tommy Lee Jones, though, I truly believe. I love that man. I'd follow him through the gates.
And that actually, the point you made though at the end, where he's like, "I don't know what to do," that actually was good.
That was fairly pointed.
I do like that.
That was a good.
That is a good moment.
Like
I do
he's
like
good.
that moment.
He's the only good part of this movie.
Right.
But what were we talking about? Oh yeah, I feel like Dante's Peak. Like going back and watching now, I thought everything you were saying, Nate. I mean, I didn't want to say it at the time, but I agree with it. The way it was shot, and it was very touching, and you know, the use of the camera to make you feel isolated and feel how long that boat ride is taking. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a really good movie actually. So when you say it's forgettable, I'm like, I thought it was actually really good.
I mean, forgettable doesn't mean it's a bad movie, but it's just there's nothing that's like super unique about it that I'm gonna carry it with me for the rest of my life.
It should have been more memorable than it was for one big fact that Nate, you brought up a lot: the use of practical effects. It was astounding. It looked really good and terrifying.
I feel like it was at a weird time in the 90s where everyone was so on the CGI, even though it was pretty bad.
We're post Jurassic Park at this point.
Right. I feel like if a movie like that with those kind of practical effects came out in like 2015, people would have been like, "Wow, this is great." Like, look at these practical effects, because people would have been more into the idea of like, hey, they're not using CGI. They're actually like using practical effects and sort of supplementing it with CGI, which is sort of the way you're supposed to do it. And that movie kind of did it, but people really didn't want to see that at the time.
Yeah.
Can I hop in with my producer's notes?
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, yes. Give us your...
So, first of all, thank you for bringing up the fact that they reused the same damn scene like 3 times. I was like, I even paused and looked at my wife. I was like, they've used that multiple times, right? I'm not imagining that. She was like, no, I've seen that. The whole movie Volcano, to me, is completely a wash when, especially if COVID has taught me anything, everybody blindly following Tommy Lee Jones just because he says he works for the government and has a jacket with 3 initials on the back of it. Nobody's going to just blindly follow this person. Why are you... Yeah, I'm like, no, I can guarantee you half of those cops have never even heard of whatever the letters were that were on the back of the jacket. It was like him putting the jacket on made him the superhero leader. And it was like, oh, that's who he's with. Listen to him. That wouldn't happen. Ever. Like, ever. Everything that happened with
especially the stakes of the things he's asking. He's like, let's blow up this fucking 100%. Skyscraper.
Yeah.
So, 19 minutes to rig it. Let's do it. And they're like, yes, sir.
Everything involving...
Even one of the guys is like, one of the guys is like, that's a precision drop. That would take 3 or 4 days. you want to put the building in an exact spot. It's a massive skyscraper.
But they did it.
And Tommy Lee Jones is like, do it fast. Bring it. Peace. I'm out.
Everything involving the fire truck and the bus was ridiculous from start to finish. And one of my favorite, most hilarious things is he tells them to shoot the tires out on the bus, and like 20 cops line up to fire at the tires. And I'm like, one cop could have just pop.
That might be the most accurate thing in the movie. Like when you hear
police, discharge your weapon.
You get to unload your weapon.
Cops like, oh, pick me.
Tommy Lee, I think everybody likes Tommy Lee Jones, but him and Don Cheadle were my favorite part of the whole movie. Just everything Don Cheadle, every scene he was in, I was like, I just love Don Cheadle. You just put him in something. I agree that Anne Heche was very unutilized. The whole movie just felt like absolute, complete chaos from start to finish. It also felt like not one damn scientist was asked any question over what could and could not happen in a hypothetical situation at any point, because none of it made sense. I'm like, and like you was like, a volcano. I'm like, yeah, do we not know what a volcano is? Like, you said that, Jeff, and I looked it up, and I'm like, Mount St. Helens was in 1980. Surely everybody knows what a volcano is at this point. Something I found interesting, both of the leads, Tommy Lee Jones and Pierce Brosnan, were supposed to be on vacation. That was just another little tidbit that I thought was interesting. Soon as, because we watched Volcano first, and then we watched Dante's Peak, and 10 seconds into it, I was like, Why can't these guys just take a damn vacation? Let these people take a vacation.
They're committed.
Dante's pick did feel like they talked to at least one scientist that gave them some information throughout the whole thing. Back to John Carroll Lynch. What was really funny was when you brought him up, I had just brought up his IMDb on my monitor up here right when you brought him up, because I was gonna say, like, that was the most dramatic, like, intense scene I've ever seen him in literally anything. And it was like his own career story arc just taking place of garbage to heroic at the very end. And I'm like, even though we all know as soon as he hit that, he would have just melted down and there would have been no stop throw at any point in there, I'm pretty sure it would have just been a straight sink down.
It's a good question. How fast does lava melt a human being?
Right.
And does it even fully? I mean, we saw earlier people that got burned and they were just like charred and shit. And he melts.
I've heard that it actually doesn't melt you down like that. That it actually is almost like hitting concrete, and you kind of just like you would catch on fire. Yeah, you would burn. You would catch on fire.
Because it would immediately heat you up before it would like consume you.
Right, but it's not like a. You know, we think of like the floor is lava. Like, it's not like a thing that you're gonna like sink into. It's not quicksand.
He straight Gollum'd that shit, man. I mean, he went straight down into it.
And where I said it felt like Volcano felt like absolute chaos the whole time, is like, what is actually happening here, and really unorganized. It really felt like I felt a sense of dread through most of Dante's Peak. Like, they're not listening to this man. You know something bad's getting ready to happen, and then the way they just showed between all the bad things happening leading up to them having to evacuate, it felt like an impending doom, where Volcano just felt like everyone's running around with like a chicken with your head cut off, and I don't know what's happening here, and they don't know what's happening here, and they're just making it up as they go. So
you're right. They do a lot of talking of like, behind this, this park, it's just a bunch of houses and stuff and apartment blocks. It's the classic, they told us, whereas Dante Peak in this case made us feel, but they showed us instead of just telling us.
Yeah.
It really brought the emotion.
And there was nothing
joking.
I was just gonna say, there was nothing more real than an expert who knows, literally is supposed to be the best of the best, going, this isn't a good situation, let's get out, and his boss going, nah, let's wait a minute. That there's nothing more felt more real than that. And I was like,
pump the brakes.
That's me at work every day. I don't know.
In fairness, I think that was one of the things that they did well, because immediately after that, the boss comes in and tells a story and explains why he's doing it, because he was in a similar situation and it cost the town money, etc. So I was like, okay, there was at least an explanation for it. Even if I think it's still stupid that he reacts, like, I agree overall, but because that's the thing, right? Like, I'm an auditor in my job. So if someone comes to me and is like, we have an audit problem, I'm not going to be like, this is not a problem. I'm going to be like, oh, okay, let's see how we need to deal with this. So that's what feels a little weird, where it's like, I don't think anybody that's that far into it is going to be like, oh, we can't do our jobs.
It was weird, though, because, he did. He just said, we need to set up the monitors and do all that.
That's true. They did. And the data did not tell them that anything was wrong.
It's also weird to have a town at the base of a volcano, whether it's dormant or not, to not have an evacuation protocol that anybody who lives there knows it.
Yeah, and probably the same for the wildfires that you get every year.
Yeah, right. And we've been joking about the all their faces are the same line, but like that really did. It was I know it was bad at the time, even though I didn't see the movie, but I know that it had to have been seen bad at the time, and it aged even worse. That was a terrible. Yeah.
By the way, I meant to.
Not only is it.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I pulled up the IMDb pages for both Volcano and Dante's Peak, where they give you the core list of actors. There were 4 of different ethnicities on Volcano, whereas there was none on Dante's Peak.
What about one of the scientists? He's brownish. They're like, we got that extra
Oh, it's the
diversity
guy.
in
It's
there.
the guy. It's the guy from True Lies.
Oh, Grant
it's got-
Hasselhoff.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
well they used a
Yep.
bad picture because everyone just looks Caucasian in this picture. It
Well, to be fair, none of us can remember that character's name, so
was
Right.
Greg. His name was clearly Greg.
Speaking of which, we've had two. Not only did these movies come out within 18 months of each other now, but in Armageddon, Bruce Willis's character's name was Harry, and in Dante's Peak, Pierce Brosnan's name was Harry.
you know,
Look at that.
somebody else pointed out.
And Armageddon
movies
should have
that are
won, so that makes
considered-
sense.
There you go. I didn't
The
say it.
writers of this movie could have named their characters anything they wanted. Well, any movie, but specifically Dante's Peak. Could have named their characters anything they wanted. And yet they chose to have a Harry and a Terry, both in a instance where people are screaming their names repeatedly. And it's very confusing for the viewer. Like, which one are we talking about? Anyway. That's all I have to say.
And Linda Hamilton and Pierce Brosnan probably a more.
Yeah,
Leave
they actually have
appropriate
chemistry
relationship.
too.
Yeah.
Although
Actually,
they
I
do
bought their.
they do have more chemistry, but I personally felt like the shoehorning the love story into either movie was dumb, and like they definitely
Sure.
went
Was
they definitely went
unnecessary.
further in Dante's Peak than in Volcano, because they're about to like get it on, and then
Yeah.
Volcano hits.
The volcano kind of cock blocks him.
He
Like-
total got shot.
She,
By
she
Dante's
literally goes to get water for her daughters. Like she'll fall right back asleep. when she
Yeah,
has
she's
to
like,
drink
don't worry,
it."
don't worry, we're gonna do this.
We're gonna do it. And then like that sulfur water, and he's like, "Oh god damn it, the
Son of a
volcano's gonna explode."
Because they right before that they both said how long it had been since they had been with somebody.
Yes.
Sorry,
And
sorry guys, fucking sulfur in the water.
And
We
what was
gotta go.
what was
We gotta
funny
move.
was as soon as her kid yelled for her, I looked at Monica and went, "It's always the damn kids."
It's always the damn kids every time.
Oh man. All right, so that's it for this week. So now we have.
Oh, you gotta announce the movies for next
Nate.
week.
I know. I'm just recapping. Nate winning this week. Steve won last week, so we've no repeat winners yet. Although Steve is the only one that could have been one. But now next week, Steve, since you have not been a judge, you will be the judge next week,
And me
then
that gavel.
and
you
then we'll
asshole.
spin the wheel again. But the reveal of the movies for week 3, and Brandon, you pointed this out to us, that we talked about how our first 4 movies were all within 18 months of each other. Well, if we expand that a little bit, it includes our next 2 movies, which are Ants and A Bug's Life, which both came out in 1998 also, and our first animated movies ever that we've talked about on this
Sure,
show.
yeah,
that's
ever on the
accurate.
Yeah.
podcast. Really,
So-
honestly, are they the first? I'm trying to think. Are they the first movies we've ever done that are like specifically marketed to children?
I mean, they have to be.
Yeah,
I think they have to
mean,
be.
Certainly
Yeah,
not
they're-
'cause
season 2.
We didn't. I mean,
No,
Are there any
no,
Spike Lee
no.
movies?
we almost talked about Hook in season 1, right? But we didn't.
Yeah, and that
So
that was
that was-
kind of on the line. This
Yeah.
one's definitely though like, but these were marketed to little kids.
Yes, these were
This
definitely
is
for
family
sure.
entertainment.
The
We got-
perfect fodder for a highly intellectual debate.
And DreamWorks. Ants kind of kicked off DreamWorks as a sort of a player in the animation game.
I thought that
And
was
then,
Shrek.
I think Ants was
Shrek
first.
was after Ants.
Oh yeah, Shrek was 2001. That's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Never forget
and
9/11 and
never
Shrek.
forget. And then A Bug's Life was Pixar's initial run before they started doing sequels and stuff. Like Pixar's still good, but they're not as good as they were in the early days. And Bug's Life is smack dab in the middle of that. So this will be interesting. But Brandon, as always, the wheel of decision-making power has to be spun
So
to
who?
determine
So I
who
keep
of
forgetting
us.
how
So
we're doing this.
Steve chooses one of us, and then you spin the wheel for the movies.
All right, Jeff, you go first.
Okay.
All right, and then as I've been asking, Jeff, which one would you prefer?
Which one would I prefer?
Yeah, did you have a preference when they came out?
Ants. I don't know if that's not my preference when they came out. That's what I would prefer to defend.
To argue for.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That
I
is
prefer A Bug's Life, so this will be interesting.
Do we just go with that?
all right. No, we
Yeah,
don't. We have to spin the wheel.
No.
All right, Jeff.
It's not called the wheel of decision-making power for nothing.
Right. This is the only power I really have here in this. Jeff, you got A Bug's Life.
Oh shit.
That's actually more
This'll be
fun.
good.
It's more fun. Did you have to argue against what you were?
And again,
It's
that
been a
was
long
not
time
to
since
say
I've
that I
seen-
thought Ants was a better movie. I haven't seen these in a long time, but
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long. I've seen Bug's Life more recently than I've seen Ants.
So
yeah,
DreamWorks.
that was just me saying which one that I think I would like to defend.
DreamWorks' first 3 animated movies in order were Ants, Prince of Egypt, and The Road to El Dorado.
Those are honestly, that's a
Those
pretty
are
damn
legit.
good run.
Those are legit. And Ants is the only one that was CGI. The other two were hand drawn.
And their first 5 were okay. So it went Ants, Prince of Egypt, Road to El Dorado, Chicken Run, Shrek.
Chicken Run.
Those were the first 5 animation movies.
It's a pretty good lineup.
That's actually
and
that's a
Chicken Run
better
is-
5-film run.
Claymation.
That's a better 5-film run than they've been given credit for.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
those are some bangers. I mean,
It goes off
DreamWorks is
track
wrong.
after that, but
But they're kind of back on track. I mean, DreamWorks is outside of
They did the
Disney
Wild Robot,
Pixar-
right?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
which
outside
we
of
just
Disney
watched
Pixar,
that.
DreamWorks
And that's
is
an
the-
amazing
It's really
movie.
good.
The major player.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, Minions is as big as anything Disney has going right now.
That's not DreamWorks, is it?
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought that was like
Illumination.
Illumination. Oh, is that DreamWorks?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
no, it's not
Disney
DreamWorks.
is to DreamWorks what
I've got all of DreamWorks movies in front of me, and that's not listed on there.
it's not.
Isn't Illumin? Oh,
How do
wait,
I know
hang on,
more
hang on,
about
hang on.
children's
on.
I
animation?
thought
than all of
Illumination
them?
hang on.
was. I thought Illumination
on.
was to DreamWorks as Pixar was to Disney.
That's exactly the analogy I was just going to make. I think that's what it is. Illumination is an animation studio that is distributed by DreamWorks, and
Yeah.
Pixar is an animation studio distributed by Disney. I
And-
think.
And DreamWorks, I think DreamWorks owns the Minions IP.
It's founded by Fox Animation and is a division of Universal Pictures.
Well, shit.
I think
No-
you guys are just pulling us out of your
No,
ass.
nothing on there about DreamWorks.
On the Wikipedia page for Illumination. Let's
Yeah.
see if we just type in.
That's what I'm.
Oh, looky
That's what
here.
I'm
Okay,
looking
okay.
at.
Hang on. Look,
Uh,
I got it. Universal owns both of them. DreamWorks does not own Illumination, but Universal Pictures
Right.
does own
They're
both
like-
studios, Illumination and DreamWorks.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, NBC bought
Yeah.
them both. Bought DreamWorks back in 2016. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
There you
I'm
go.
glad people went down this
So
rabbit hole.
there's,
with us.
yeah. We got back down and we got up, or went down into the ant tunnels.
The
Bug
ant
tunnels, ant farm.
We've gone from the lava tubes to the ant tunnels.
So at some point, I promise, we will get past the year 1998. Promise you, in this season.
It was
So
really
yeah,
formative for all of us. It must have been.
must have been. All right.
Well,
so
honestly, a lot of these were from that era. Like the 90s kind of produced a lot of these. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
weird.
indeed. Well,
You know, we
Weird.
talked about getting to the root of that, and no promises because I doubt we will. But we might explore it a little bit more.
We might.
but no
philosophically
promises.
explored.
What
So-
our answers so far are the Chicxulub whatever crater that we discovered in 1993 in the
Mhm.
paper, and the Cold War. That's
So-
all we got so far.
So we're gonna take those two things into ants and a bug's life. Okay.
And on that
All
note,
right.
All right.
On that note, we'll see you back next week with those two movies. Until then, thank you all for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.